that? It did work! Hi everyone! Today I'm finally going to try doing the 3D bloom resin technique. Now I will explain what I'm doing, but this is not a tutorial. I'm not 100% sure what I'm doing. Think of this video more like a resin vlog. This is me documenting my experience and sharing with you how this goes. I've got some notes, so if you're curious to see how my first resin blooms go, let's get started. So today I'm going to be using Let's Resin's Epoxy, and they've actually sent me this 1 liter kit. If you've been watching my channel for a while now, you already know that this is one of the resin brands that I regularly use and recommend. So I'm just going to quickly show you what's in this kit, and right off the bat you get 1 liter of resin, 500 milliliters of part A and 500 milliliters of part B. Then there's 2 different types of measuring cups. You can never have enough of these cups with the measurements on the sides. Some popsicle sticks for mixing up the resin. They also include a manual on how to mix the resin, and there's also some tips and tricks in here. And finally, there's 6 different colored mica powders to dye the resin. In my opinion, this is honestly such a great little starter kit for anyone who's interested in trying Let's Resin's Epoxy or just trying resin crafts in general. Anyways, thank you Let's Resin for sending me it. So now I'm going to mix up my resin, and I'm going to mix up a total of 4 ounces. I'm going to use 1 ounce to mix with white pigment, and the other 3 ounces are going to be split into my 2 coaster molds. I will be running this resin through my air bubble remover to help get rid of these air bubbles. My craft room is colder today. You all know Canadian winters. So the viscosity of this epoxy is on the thicker side. But yeah, when it comes to resin blooms, I've learned it's all about the temperature. So once this resin is fully mixed up, I will wait until it's around 38°C or 100°F before pouring it into my molds. So while I wait, I'm going to get everything set up, because once the epoxy is warm enough, it's go time. For my inks, I'm going to be using Let's Resin's alcohol inks. Might as well stay on brand. And I'm going to use peach red and turquoise for 1 coaster and pear and aqua for the other. I'm also going to be using Let's Resin's Ocean White pigment paste for the bloom petals. Alright, my resin has been sitting for 20 minutes and it's about the right temperature. It's around 36-37°C, so it's showtime. It's time to divide my resin up. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm really nervous about what I'm doing today. I don't think I've ever been so intimidated and hesitant about trying a resin technique like I am with this one. I've watched countless resin bloom videos, and I mean countless, over this past year, but I always find a way to procrastinate. I think it's because with this resin bloom technique, there's quite a few aspects of it that if it's not right, it doesn't work, so I don't know. But here I am, finally trying it, and I'm really hoping it works out. Let me know down below if there's ever been a resin technique you've been hesitant to try. Also, let me know if you've tried the resin bloom technique and how did it go? Before I start dropping my alcohol inks, I'm just going to go around with my silicone tip tool to remove air bubbles I see clinging to the edges of these molds. Now for the inks, I'm going to keep it simple and just drop the inks onto the resin. I know you can swirl the inks for a prettier effect, but I'm thinking, since this is my first time, I want the point of this video to be seeing if I can get the white pigment to bloom. So I'm going to put the peach red and the aqua on the outer edges and then put the pear and the turquoise inks in the middle. Hopefully these colors look good together. I just chose my favorite colors of the set, but I'm noticing that the peach red isn't doing what it's meant to. It's not spreading like my other inks, so hopefully it doesn't affect the bloom. I'm also noticing that some of the turquoise drops are slightly discolored, which is weird. Maybe I didn't shake the bottles enough? I don't know. Can't turn back now. I'm so out of my element with this. So the next thing I'm going to do is mix up the white, and this is a crucial part. It's my understanding that besides the temperature of the epoxy, mixing up this white has to be right as well, or else the blooming effect won't work either. So no pressure, no pressure. But like you saw, I only put 2 small blobs of the ocean white pigment paste in this ounce of resin. This white needs to look milky, slightly transparent. If it's too opaque, it can just sink. Now, since I'm a newbie at this, I don't feel confident freehanding the white, so I am going to transfer this resin into a piping bag, and that way I'll have more control of the flow of the epoxy coming out. One important thing I do want to say, no matter what resin technique you're doing with alcohol inks, is you should never torch or use a lighter with an open flame over these inks, especially when they've just been put down. These inks are highly flammable since they do have alcohol in them, so it can catch on fire. When it comes to using alcohol inks, I highly recommend using a heat gun since it is the safer option. I'm going to do a little snip at the end of this piping bag and let's see what happens. Again, I'm going to keep it simple for my sake, and I'm just going to do the spiral pattern for both coasters. This part is where you can get somewhat creative. I've seen other resin artists do a bunch of different beautiful patterns with their blooms, but I'm just sticking with the spiral. If this works out, maybe next time I can get more adventurous. Now it's time to make the bloom petals, so I'm going to take my silicone tip tool and pass it through the resin like so. I am making sure that my tool doesn't touch the bottom of my mold. I can't remember right now off the top of my head why it's not recommended. I think it's something to do with it potentially messing up the colors, but it is one of the points in my notes not to touch the bottom of the mold. I will be doing my bloom petals for both coasters almost the same, except for this first one. I will be doing an extra step by running my silicone tip tool from the middle outwards, and this is going to make the petals pointier. For those of you who are familiar with the resin bloom technique, which look is your favorite of the two? Pointier petals or rounded petals? I personally like the rounded petals since to me it looks very similar to a carnation flower, which thinking about it, it probably is what it's meant to be. I know there's also a rose bloom pattern, but that one right now is a little too complicated and advanced for me. Okay, so for this next clip, I'm going to put my phone on a 20 to 30-minute time lapse and let's see what happens. Okay, so it's been about 7 hours since I poured this resin, and these coasters are looking okay-ish. I'm not holding my breath for the pink one. Only half of it seemed to do what it was supposed to, which is weird. As for the blue one, it does look like it mostly worked. The outer petals did bloom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix up my resin with these micas. I have 2 ounces of resin here, and this resin is going to be for the backings. I'm going to use the gold for the blue coaster and the black for the pink coaster. Although I'm not going to be doing it today, one really good tip for mixing micas with epoxy is to dissolve it with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol first and then pour in your epoxy. Some of these mica powders can clump up as you're mixing it with resin, and sometimes it can be tricky to get rid of them without introducing a bunch of air bubbles into your resin. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how these look tomorrow when I can demold them. There's a couple of other things I've seen that I really want to try doing with the bloom technique. I promise I won't bombard you all with too many videos, but I can see why there's quite a few YouTube channels who mostly do resin blooms. It's really fun. With the rush of having to work quickly, and then the element of surprise of not knowing exactly how they're going to turn out, I can see myself getting addicted to doing these. Now I'm going to cover these molds up and let this resin cure. These coasters are cured now. I've gone ahead and written the date I made these for my reference, just in case I want to feature these in a future resin art update. So now I'm going to quickly pop these out of the mold and we'll get to the reveal. I really hope these turned out good. Okay, let's start with the black one with the pink ink, just because it looked like it wasn't doing what it was supposed to. So, oh, look at that! It did work! Oh, that looks so cool! I'm really liking these pink petals. That looks so vibrant. The middle, the middle didn't do so well. My little swirl there looks kind of messy. And the turquoise didn't really seem to work out, but I'm impressed. So now let's see how this gold one has turned out. So, oh, this one looks so much prettier. Oh, this one, I really, really like this one. Again, that middle, I don't know. Still a newbie, like I said. I'm not, that's pretty messy, but these petals look so pretty. Oh, that look at that. That looks really, really nice. Okay, so wow, my first blooms. I'm honestly really happy with the results. I hope you've enjoyed joining me on this new to me resin adventure, and I hope it has inspired you to try the resin bloom technique if you haven't already. If you'd like to see other resin techniques I've tried, then be sure to check out one of these videos next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.